Secretary General Ace Magashule saying that it's a collective effort and not any one individual contributing to the victory of the party there. All right, so we're talking about the results and the election processes, and in studio with me is Tselane, who's the executive chairman of the Institute of Election Management Services in Africa, and he was with the IEC as its vice chair for many, many years. Terry, thanks very much for joining us. We started our conversation a little bit earlier on, and I want us to carry on now. This thumbprint, this mark on my finger, is one of the checks and balances in the process. And this has now become a point of contention because some people said they've been able to wipe it away. Were they, in your view, enough checks and balances? Because one of the things that they did this year was to allow this roaming where you could go to any voting station in your province to vote. And this is something that I haven't experienced before. And that was one of the checks and balances in the past. Do you think that it might have been a mistake to allow that to happen, to take away a check and balances when you should be having more?
I think there are two issues here. The first one relates to the ink and whether it is removable or not. And it is a matter that the Commission now has conducted or is conducting an audit in order to be able to clarify that issue. So after the investigation, we'll be able to see, what is the outcome thereof, and then how that we proceed from here. The second issue that you are raising is Section 24A of the Electoral Act, which basically enables a voter to vote at any voting station and not necessarily at the voting stations where they are registered. Now, that's a provision that came in 1999. And the reason why it came into the legislation, it is largely because, remember, we started with the development of the voters' roll in 1998. And there were many, many irregularities within the voters' roll. There were people who were placed by the scanner in different areas. So Section 24A came into operation in order to try to address that particular aspect. But I think the system now has matured and improved to the extent that that Section 24A is no longer necessary. In my opinion, it must be repealed, it must be removed from the Electoral Act. Yeah. And the reason why it is a problem, it is because when you plan your logistics, according to the number of people who are registered at a particular voting station. Right. So allocation of materials, it's in line with how many people are registered at a particular voting station. And now, if you allow everybody to go to any station, and then one station is more popular than the others, it means whatever you had actually rationed for that particular station is going to be depleted within a very short space of time. So that's why I'm saying that it is no longer necessary. The voters' roll has improved. Now the Commission is about to finalize the issues of addresses. You know where people live, and therefore, like in local government elections where a person is forced to vote where they are registered, I think once we have removed Section 24A, because it's no longer relevant, it's no longer useful, in fact it's creating more confusion than it is resolving anything, we should actually now be able to vote where we are registered.
All right, so let's talk about the situation that we're in now. Do you think that the integrity of these elections has been compromised to a degree that there might have to be a rerun? Because if one person can vote twice, that's a problem in the system. And when you have systemic issues, we don't know how many people actually, we caught 20 apparently, but there could have been more, and that's a problem.
You know, the beauty about our legal framework is that it's got a solution for each and every challenge. And again, I want to refer you to Section 56 of the Electoral Act. The Section 56 of the Electoral Act empowers the Commission or the Electoral Act to discount certain votes if either the Commission or the Electoral Court feels that the irregularities in that particular area were so high that you cannot actually be able to say there were credible elections taking place there. So the issue of a rerun is not an issue that would actually be taken lightly because of its implications for quite a number of other areas. So I suspect what the Commission is going to do, if after the audit they find that there were irregularities in certain areas, because you can't just say there were irregularities everywhere in the country. You've got to be able to pinpoint exactly where the irregularities happened and how those irregularities happened. And then after that, you can then invoke Section 56 of the Electoral Act, where you then say the votes at this particular voting station will not count, or part of them, part of the votes cast there will not count. Either the whole result or part of the result does not count.
From where you're sitting at the moment, do you think that the election is going to deliver a fair result?
I think to a large extent, what we have already seen there is basically saying we've had credible results in spite of the hiccups and the difficulties that are there. The observers have already also issued statements. They were all over the country. And I think on the basis of that, I can say that. But I think it is important for me to also add, because what we have seen, even where the results have been completed, it's not the declaration of the results that is happening there, because I've suggested to you that the results of the elections have got to be declared in terms of Section 57 of the Electoral Act. And that's where now the Commission will be able to say whether those elections, the results were credible or not credible. Now, there are many things that are going to be taken into consideration, of course, in order for them to come to a declaration. So we will wait for the Commission, for the Commission to declare the results. All the completed results are not declared results. The Commission will not declare those results until such time they've dealt with all Section 55 objections. They are busy now. It is one aspect dealing with the audits. There could be many others that they are dealing with. I can assure you right now, they are probably sitting somewhere in a boardroom looking with the recommendations from the legal team and trying to deal with all those issues as they emerge.
2019, how is it that we're not digital or biometric at this point? I mean, our next door neighbors, Namibia, DRC already have deployed technology. How is it that a country like ours, so far ahead of a lot of our peers in terms of resources, are still doing this?
My former colleagues in the IC will tell you that I've been the strongest advocate of electronic voting. And I still believe that the country now has reached a point where manual ballots are no longer sustainable. You had earlier on also former president of Nigeria, His Excellency Goodluck Jonathan, also saying that the time has arrived. I happened to be fortunate to have a conversation with him about 2 days ago, where we discussed also the possibility of introducing electronic voting. And I've been advocating for that. And I think South Africa has now reached that point, because with a number of the political parties that have now mushroomed, with the kind of the logistical difficulties that we have, and the fact that many irregularities actually happen during counting, it becomes important, therefore, that we begin to move in that direction. And I think the Commission, with a little bit of pressure from all over, we'll begin to explore that possibility.
All right, Terry, thanks so much indeed. Okay, we'll continue to chat. But in the meantime, my partner in